Okay, so now that we have the character being able to move around and we'll be able to jump, and what we need to do is we need to get the animations working so we can actually see the character animate as they're walking around. So what we need to do is we need to create a Anim instance. So normally how you would do this is if you go into your Paladin tutorial and you would you would go in here and you would create an animation and you would create an animation blueprint, and we would choose the Nordstrom skeleton, and then we would go ahead and create. I'm just going to call this test. Now if we look at this, as you can see where it says parent class, it says Anim instance. So we've created a blueprint from a parent class called Anim instance. So what we are going to do is we're going to create our own Anim instance. I'm going to delete this because you don't need to have it. So delete that. What we're going to do is we're going to go into C++ classes. We're going to go into the Paladin tutorial and into public. What we want to do is we want to right click new C++ class. You want to click on all classes and you want to search for Anim instance. And you want this one, Anim instance.h. What we're going to do is go to next, and this is going to put it into public and private for the .h and .cpp file. And what I want to call this is I want to call it Paladin Anim instance. And we're going to go ahead and create the class. Once that compiles, we'll have the editor up and running. Okay, so now it's compiled. I'm going to close that window out. And I'm going to take the paladin.h file. I'm going to close that out. Paladin character CPP, close that out. I'm going to go into the header file. Now in the header we have all the includes that we need, but what we do need to do is we need to have a declaration. So I'm going to say declarations. So what I'm going to do is do class a Paladin character. Now that we have the declaration, what we're going to do is come down here and we need to create a public section. And what we need to do is we need to create a update animation properties, and we need to create a native initialize animation, and we're going to do an override for that. So what we're going to do is the code below is used in animation blueprints. It's going to be a U function, and it's going to be blueprint callable. And it's going to be a void, and it's going to be update animation properties. And we need a float because we need to pass in the delta time. Now a U function, we hover over this. Functions can exist in two basic forms: C++ function, U function. Both C++ functions and U functions are declared in the .h. And basically what this is, it helps with garbage collection as well. So, and what we're doing is blueprint callable. This function is going to be able to be used in blueprints, and you'll understand that once we create the animation blueprint. So now what we need to do is come down here and create a virtual void native initialize animation override. We can initialize variables and use them in blueprints. So now what we need to do is create a private class. Now in the private class, we need to create the Paladin character. So this is going to be a U property. It's going to be visible anywhere, blueprint read only. So blueprint read only, and it's going to be in a category of movement, and we need a meta specifier and allow private access equals true. And we need to do a Paladin character. It needs to have a pointer to it and a Paladin character. So now that we have that, and that is going to be so we can get the pawn in the CPP file. So what we need to do is, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and create some variables that I know that we're going to be using. Like we're going to have to have a speed. Is the Paladin in air? Is the Paladin blocking? And the direction. So what I'm going to do is do a U property. We're going to be visible anywhere, blueprint read only. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy this and paste it down here. And what we're going to need is a float, and we're going to need a speed. And we're going to need another one, and that one we need is a float, and it's going to be direction. So we have speed and direction, and I want to create another one. This one we're going to need it's a boolean. B is in air, because we're going to be using that when we're jumping. And we're going to need another one. This one is going to be another boolean. This one's going to be B is blocking, because you can have different animations running if you're blocking. A different blend space for when you're blocking. And that is about it, what we need for the header file. So what we do need to do, if we come over here into the CPP file, we don't have anything. So what we need to do is we need to update animation properties. We need to generate definition, and instance, update animation properties. Come back into here, native initialize animation. We need to generate definition for that. So I believe that's all we need in the header file. So in the update animation properties, I'm going to make a comment so you understand what's going on. And this acts like tick for animations and get speed. And the native initialize, what we need to do here is we need to acts like begin play to create a reference to the character. And what we need here is we don't need the super for this, but what we do need is Paladin character, because we have that right here, the Paladin character. What we do need to do is we need to cast this, so just say cast and say a Paladin character. And what we need to do is we need to try get pawn owner, and then we come up here into the update animations, and we need to make sure that we have a valid Paladin character. So all we need to do is go say if Paladin character equals a null pointer, what we need to do is we need to cast to it. So just come up here and we do that. So if the Paladin character equals null pointer, we just want to go ahead and cast to it. Then if we do a if Paladin character, so if the Paladin character is valid, we get the speed of the character from the velocity. So what we need to do is get speed of character from velocity. This is going to be an F vector. I'm going to say velocity equals Paladin character get velocity. Then what we need to do is just zero it out. Velocity.z 0. We're zeroing out the z. And then we need a speed. Speed equals velocity.size. So what that does is it gets the speed of the character. This does. So now what we need to do, since we're going to do the B is in air, and we can say Paladin character, we get character movement, and we can say is falling. So if it's falling, it's going to be set to true because it's going to be in air because we're falling. And then we can play the jump or falling animation. We'll go over that in future video. But what we need to do is we need to get the offset yaw to the player for the blend spaces because we're going to create a blend space. So what we need to do is get offset yaw for player and blend spaces. So we need that to be used in the blend spaces. So we need an F rotator. It's going to be a const. We're going to say aim rotation equals Paladin character, and that is going to be a get base aim rotation. Then we need another F rotator. That one's going to be a const, and this is the movement rotation. Movement rotation equals U Kismet math library. U Kismet math library, and we do a make rotator from X. That's going to be the Paladin character, and that's going to be a get velocity. Now, if you look up at the top, up here, make sure that right there, make sure you add that include if it does, if your IDE does not include that for you. Make sure you add that in or you will get an error. Okay, so now that we have the UKismet math library, the make rotator from X, make sure you have the header file up here included. Because if you try to use the UKismet math library, let's say the header's not there, more than likely you're going to see an error here. And what you can do is, if we run this, it's going to throw an error, and I will show you the error. Normally, use of undeclared identifier, UKismet math library. Normally, when you see use of undeclared identifier, that means you forgot a header most of the time. So if you're trying to use something, let's say you're trying to use the UKismet math library, what you can do is you can go here to Google, type in Unreal Engine UKismet math library header documentation, or just type in UKismet math library documentation. You can go here. This right here is the documentation. Right now it's for 4.2.7, but it's been around for a while. So now right here, references. We have a header. Here's the header file that we need to include. And it'll tell you that is what you need to include. The include Kismet math library. So when you see an error like this, that just means you forgot a header. And whatever you're trying to use, just go into Google and search for that, and then just type in Unreal Engine, what you're trying to use, and then say documentation, and more than likely you can get the header information. Okay, so now that we have that, what we need to do is we need to come down here, and we got movement rotation. What we need to do is get the direction, and we're going to use the UKismet math library normalized delta rotator. We want to get the movement rotation and aim rotation, and we want to get the yaw, and then we go ahead and save that. So now what we need to do is go ahead and compile this. Okay, so now that the editor is launched, what we can do is we can come in here and we can see the Paladin Anim instance. Now what we need to do is create a blueprint Anim instance from this. So if we come into the Paladin tutorial, come to Paladin, how you would normally create a animation blueprint, that is what we need to create from our own Paladin Anim instance. So that will be in the next video. Thank you. Bye for now.